The Dyatlov Pass Incident. The wind howled like a living thing across the frozen slopes of the Ural Mountains. It wasn't just cold, it was a kind of cold that crept into the bones, a cold that silenced thoughts and numbed the will to survive. In the winter of 1959, 9 experienced hikers set out on an expedition into this unforgiving wilderness. They were young, strong, and trained to endure the harshest conditions nature could throw at them. They had maps, equipment, and confidence. What they didn't have was any idea that they were walking toward one of the most mysterious tragedies in human history. The group was led by Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old engineering student known for his intelligence, discipline, and leadership. His team consisted of fellow students and graduates, each one skilled in skiing, survival, and mountaineering. This was not a reckless adventure. It was a carefully planned journey, a test of endurance meant to earn them top-level certification in trekking. Their destination was a remote mountain in the northern Urals, a place known to the local Monsey people as Kolet-Syakhl, Dead Mountain. The name should have been a warning. The expedition began smoothly. Spirits were high. The group joked, sang, and documented their journey with photographs and diary entries. Snow covered the landscape like an endless white ocean, broken only by dark lines of trees and jagged ridges. The hikers moved steadily, pulling their gear on sleds, carving paths through deep drifts. Each night, they set up camp, cooked simple meals, and rested in their shared tent, a long canvas structure designed to hold all 9 of them. But as they pushed deeper into the mountains, conditions worsened. The wind grew stronger, the temperature dropped further, and visibility became unpredictable. On January 31st, they reached the edge of a highland area leading toward their final ascent. It was here that things began to shift, subtly at first, almost unnoticed. The next day, February 1st, they attempted to cross the mountain slope. But poor weather and strong winds forced them off course. Instead of descending into a safer, forested valley, they made a decision that would prove fatal. They set up camp on the exposed slope of Kolet-Syakhl itself. It was a strange choice. Experienced hikers usually avoid camping on open slopes, especially in extreme weather. The forest below offered shelter from the wind, firewood, and better protection. Yet for reasons still debated, they chose to stay where they were. Perhaps they didn't want to lose altitude. Perhaps they believed they could manage. Or perhaps, something else influenced that decision. They pitched their tent on the incline, anchoring it into the snow. Inside, they laid out their gear, removed their outer layers, and prepared for the night. The wind outside screamed across the mountain. The darkness closed in. And then, something happened. No one knows exactly what it was. But sometime during the night, all 9 hikers suddenly fled their tent. Not through the entrance, but by cutting their way out from the inside. The canvas was slashed open. From within. It was not a careful exit. It was a desperate escape. They left behind their boots, their coats, their supplies. They ran into the freezing night, barefoot, half-dressed, into temperatures that could kill within minutes. Why? What could have terrified them so completely that they would abandon safety and run into certain death? Days turned into weeks before a search party was organized. When the hikers failed to return on schedule, concern began to grow. Eventually, rescuers set out to retrace their path. What they found would only deepen the mystery. The tent was discovered first. It was partially buried in snow, still standing, but damaged. The investigators noted that it had been cut open from the inside. Inside, everything was left behind as if the occupants had vanished in an instant. Shoes were neatly placed. Clothes remained folded. Food and personal belongings were untouched. It didn't look like a normal evacuation. It looked like panic. Following the trail away from the tent, the searchers found footprints in the snow. Bare feet. Socks. A single boot here and there. The prints led downhill, toward the forest. But there was something strange about them. They weren't chaotic. They weren't the marks of people running for their lives. They were calm, measured. As if the group had walked away, not fled. This contradiction would haunt the investigation. The first bodies were found near a large cedar tree at the edge of the forest. 2 hikers lay there, barefoot, wearing only undergarments. Their skin was burned and torn, their hands injured as if they had tried to climb the tree. Nearby, remnants of a small fire suggested they had attempted to survive the cold. Between the tree and the tent, 3 more bodies were discovered. These individuals appeared to have been trying to return to the tent. Their positions, frozen mid-movement, told a silent story of desperation. They had turned back, perhaps realizing the danger, but they never made it. The remaining 4 hikers were not found until months later, buried under deep snow in a ravine further into the forest. Their condition was far more disturbing. These bodies showed severe internal injuries, crushed ribs, fractured skulls, yet there were no external wounds to match the force required. It was as if an immense pressure had been applied from within. One woman was missing her tongue. Others had missing eyes. Some clothing showed traces of radiation. It didn't make sense. The official investigation struggled to provide answers. There were no signs of a struggle. No evidence of an attack by another group. No indication of an avalanche large enough to explain the behavior. The injuries didn't match typical survival scenarios. In the end, the case was closed with a vague conclusion. The cause of death was an unknown compelling force. It was a phrase that explained nothing. And so, the theories began. Some believed it was an avalanche, that a sudden movement of snow had frightened the hikers, causing them to cut their way out and flee. But the slope angle was not steep enough for a typical avalanche. The tent was still partially intact. And the footprints remained visible, undisturbed. Others suggested infrasound, a phenomenon where wind passing over certain shapes can create low-frequency vibrations that affect the human mind. It could cause panic, anxiety, even hallucinations. Perhaps the hikers experienced an overwhelming sense of dread, forcing them to abandon their shelter. There were theories of secret military tests. The presence of radiation fueled speculation that experimental weapons had been tested in the area. Strange lights were reportedly seen in the sky around that time. Could the hikers have witnessed something they weren't supposed to see? And then there were the darker theories. Something unknown. Something not of this world. Something that moved silently through the snow, unseen but powerful. But there was never any proof. In 2020, Russian authorities reopened the case and concluded that an avalanche was the most likely explanation. A small slab of snow, they said, could have shifted under the tent, creating the impression of imminent danger. The hikers, fearing a larger collapse, cut their way out and retreated. Disoriented in the darkness and cold, they succumbed to hypothermia and injury. It was a logical explanation. But not everyone was convinced. Because even with this conclusion, the questions remain. Why didn't they return to the tent once the danger passed? Why were some injuries so severe? Why was there radiation? Why did they leave so calmly, yet die so violently? The Dyatlov Pass Incident is more than a tragedy. It is a puzzle frozen in time. A moment where logic fails and mystery takes hold. 9 lives ended on that mountain. Their final moments are lost to the wind, buried beneath layers of snow and silence. And somewhere in the endless white of Kolat cycle, the truth still waits.